If you know even a little about pop music, there's one name you already know, the Beatles. And there's another, rock's eternal troublemakers, still touring, still loud, decades later, the Rolling Stones. Starting with these two names, dozens of British artists flooded into the American market throughout the 1960s and changed the course of cultural history along the way. We call it the British Invasion of America.
Keep on rocking, going round and round. Bottles of love potion number 9. Because I love you. Nobody else, and I'm feeling good. Just holding. It makes me feel so sad. Everyone.
The impact of their music, and everything that came with it, was staggering. Beatlemania wasn't just a fan craze, it became a genuine social phenomenon, one that shaped generations of musicians who came after.
Some of the fences hold, others do not. A minor miracle is mounted by the fact that there are no injuries spread among the near hysterical crowd. This truly is a social document for our time. Young ladies fainted, but authorities feel that...
Later, this event got a new name. They started calling it the First British Invasion, because somewhere down the line, there would be a second one. Hello, I'm Neon, the host of Neon Rewind. In this episode, I want to talk about something that was a massive event in pop music history, the Second British Invasion. But I want to tell it the way I actually experienced it, as a Korean teenager living through it in real time. As I mentioned in earlier episodes, the 1980s are a space in my memory crowded with stories and feelings. There was no internet, no smartphones. Getting anything from overseas was genuinely difficult. And in the middle of all that, a wave of British new wave artists gave a generation of us something to dream about. Talking about the artists who led that second British invasion means digging up pieces of memory I haven't touched in decades. Honestly, it's a little overwhelming, in the best way. So, let's begin. Every invasion needs an army, and before Culture Club, before Duran Duran ever touched a Billboard chart, that army was forming in two small clubs, on two different stages, in two British cities, on the very same Tuesday nights. In London, there was a tiny wine bar in Covent Garden that transformed every Tuesday night into something else entirely. They called it the Blitz. At the door stood a man named Steve Strange, holding up a mirror to anyone who tried to get in. His message was simple and brutal. Look ordinary, and you weren't getting through that door. You had to look shocking. You had to look beautiful. And here's the part that still gives me chills. The people working that door, checking those codes, dancing in that crowd, they weren't just clubgoers. Steve Strange himself would go on to form a band called Visage. The boy working the coat check was a teenager named George O'Dowd. The world would later know him as Boy George. And in that same crowd, night after night, you'd find Sade and the future members of Spandau Ballet. Enjoyed part 1? Make sure to like and subscribe for more neon nostalgia. Think about that. The bands that would go on to conquer the Billboard charts in 1983, they were once just kids in the same room, borrowing each other's makeup, building something together before the world ever knew their names. Steve Strange's own band, Visage, released a song in 1980 called Fade to Gray, heavy eyeliner, strange, beautiful fashion, cold, deliberate synthesizers. Listen to it today, and you're hearing the textbook, the original blueprint for everything new romantic music would become. Visage gave the movement its art. The bands that followed gave it commercial firepower. New romantic music became the perfected, polished, hit-making version of what started as one man's mirror at a club door. Steve Strange gave the Blitz its face, but another man gave it its soundtrack. His name was Rusty Egan. Every Tuesday night, Rusty Egan filled the room with electronic records from Kraftwerk, Giorgio Moroder, Bowie, and Ultravox. Many future stars first heard tomorrow's music on his turntables. The Blitz wasn't a band. It wasn't even a music project. It was a community. One person became Visage, another became Culture Club, another became Spandau Ballet, others became fashion designers, photographers, stylists, and producers. You're watching Neon Rewind. But Visage wasn't building Britain's future alone. At almost the same moment, hundreds of kilometers away, another duo was experimenting with synthesizers in an entirely different direction. Soft Cell wasn't born out of London's fashionable club scene. They came from art school in Leeds, proving that Britain's electronic revolution was spreading far beyond the Blitz. Not everyone wanted glamour. Some wanted something colder, something stranger, something electronic.
No, I won't let you go, don't go.
And London wasn't the only city with a secret. 200 kilometers north, in Birmingham, there was a rival club called the Rum Runner. If Blitz had the candlelit, theatrical drama of London nightlife, Rum Runner had something closer to New York's Studio 54, flashing neon, disco rhythms fused with punk energy, and the band sharpening itself there, night after night, waiting for its moment, was Duran Duran. If Blitz was the art school that gave New Romantics its soul, Rum Runner was the boot camp that gave it its ambition. London gave New Romantic its style. Birmingham gave it ambition. The two scenes weren't isolated. Musicians, DJs, and fashion ideas traveled constantly between them. And in 1983, both cities sent their armies across the Atlantic at exactly the same time. You're watching Neon Rewind. History rarely fits neatly into categories. Some called it New Wave, others called it New Romantic. Some simply called it the MTV generation. The names changed. The music kept evolving. At its heart was a generation of British artists who transformed not only how pop music sounded, but how it looked. Some reinvented fashion. Some reinvented synthesizers. Some challenged ideas about identity. And others proved that rock itself could evolve with the decade. Around them stood countless other artists, some hugely successful, others quietly influential. Together they formed one of the richest creative scenes popular music has ever seen. The movement quickly spread beyond Britain. Australia, Norway, Germany, Austria. Every country seemed to discover its own version of the new sound. America answered with a new wave of its own. Different voices, different attitudes, the same spirit of reinvention. Looking back today, the second British invasion was never just one style. It was an explosion of ideas. Fashion, technology, identity, art, pop music. For one extraordinary decade, Britain changed the sound of the world.